Hey, everybody. Welcome. Glad to be here with all of you tonight. Just another one of our late night chats. Let's go.
Of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. Glad that you're here tonight. We're going to have yet another one of our late night conversations. Not sure if it'll be very long tonight, but we'll see. You never know. There are times I get on here and I think it's going to be real quick and I end up going on for a long time. And there's times I get on here and I have a lot to say and then it just, it goes really quick. So we'll just see how it goes for tonight. But yeah, the way we'll do it, we'll follow our usual format, which is first I give my opening remarks. Then from there, we do the roll call. And then after that, I answer your questions for the remainder of the show. So if there's something you would like me to touch on in the second half of our show, I would like you to go to buymeacoffee.com/CalebMoppin and send a question. You can do it anonymously. You can do it you can do it very long. You can do this tomorrow if you're watching. Somebody sent a question last night that didn't get answered, but it will be the first one answered. And that's how it works. You can also do a Cash App. You can Cash App me. That's one way to do it. And I see Gabby just sent a question via Cash App. So I'll do Gabby as well. And you can do Rumble rants if you're on the Rumble. So there are 3 different ways to send your questions. And if you all ask good questions, hey, it might be a longer show than we think. So in terms of announcements, the big announcement is to join the Center for Political Innovation. We are organizing. We are out in the streets, building our organization. So here's our little promo video for our anti-imperialist organization. So join the Center for Political Innovation. We're a great organization. And other than that, we're just going to follow our usual format. So if you have a question, best thing to do is go to buymeacoffee.com/CalebMoppin and send in your question. You can also do Rumble rants and you can also Cash App me, Caleb Moppin 22 on Cash App or Rumble rants. Any way works, but those are the best ways to send me your questions. So tonight, we're obviously going to do an update on the war situation. Russia, it appears, is trying to negotiate an end to this conflict. Russian President Putin has had a phone call with President Trump, and Russia is pretty solidly, no question about it, on the side of Iran, maintaining that this is Iran defending themselves against U.S. and Israeli aggression. This is the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova.
I think it's necessary to reiterate the right of the Islamic Republic of Iran to self-defense according to the Article 51 of the UN Charter. We consider it unacceptable to strike against civilian infrastructure and targets and neighboring Arab states or in Iran or anywhere. We call on the United States and Israel to stop this aggression and return to the table of negotiations. It's important for every participant of the current standoff in the Middle East, including our Arabic partners, to exercise restraint, avoid double standards, and return to the efforts to put an end to this confrontation on the principle of good neighborliness. Russia will continue to take steps to have a speediest end to this confrontation in the Middle East and to resolve all disputes through peaceful means. And we intend to promote our concept of common and indivisible security in the Persian Gulf, which will allow to take into consideration of all countries of the region now.
Yeah, and
really concerned about the uncontrolled growth of this conflict. The military excursion of the United States and Israel led to the destabilization of the entire Middle Eastern region, and the conflict led to the impact on the territory of many Arab states of the Persian Gulf, and the harsh humanitarian consequences for the countries of the region that are friendly to us and the peaceful population. Now we need to put an end to this humanitarian and now environmental, radiological disaster threatening the entire region, and we need to return to the search for diplomatic solutions.
Yeah. So Russia is on the side of Iran, but they also would like this conflict to stop, and they're trying to negotiate it. Now, today we also have the new supreme leader of Iran, Khamenei, the son of the murdered supreme leader. He gave his first message. His first message was delivered. And so these are the highlights. He said in his first public letter after being elected by the Assembly of Experts, the servant of yours, Mojtaba Hosseini Khamenei, learned of the results of the vote through the broadcasting of the Islamic Republic of Iran. To sit in the place that was the seat of two great leaders, the great Khomeini and the martyred Khamenei, is an immense responsibility. He expressed gratitude to Iran's resistance and to resistance movements throughout the region, describing resistance as a central pillar of the Islamic Revolution. They referred to Iran's economy as a resistance economy. And, the Basij councils that are in every neighborhood in Iran are called the mobilized oppressed, and the notion of resistance and the oppressed, these are like central religious principles for the Shia Islamic revolutionary ideology that is preached. So that makes sense. He said, we regard the countries of the resistance front as our good friends. The cause of resistance is inseparable and part of the values of the Islamic revolution. Now, he said he also went on to praise Yemen, Hezbollah, and the Iraqi resistance for their support of Gaza and their solidarity with Iran. And those groups throughout the region are at this point fighting the United States along with Iran, shooting missiles, shooting rockets. I mean, it's happening. And, Ansar Allah is the group in Yemen. We actually published a book about them. Who are the Houthis? What are they fighting for? You got Hezbollah in Lebanon. You've got groups across Iraq. You've got in Bahrain. We know the king of Bahrain. Bahrain is a country in the region that is majority Shia Muslim, but it has a king imposed on them, a Sunni king imposed by Saudi Arabia. The people of Bahrain are in revolt. The king of Bahrain has fled the country as the people are out in the streets rebelling against the king. Not the first time that this has happened, but, the people of Bahrain very much view the United States that hosts military bases there, and Saudi Arabia that backs up the autocratic king on them. They view them as occupiers, and very well may be that Bahrain rises up and, has an Islamic revolution at this point. So we've heard reports of the king of Bahrain being out of the country. He went on to say, Iran will not abandon the pursuit of justice for those killed by the war and the U.S. and Israel. Khamenei addressed the strikes on U.S. Gulf countries, affirming that those targets are not the Gulf countries themselves. And this is important, that Iran is not attacking the Kuwaiti people. Iran is not attacking the Saudi people. Iran is not attacking the people of Jordan. It is attacking U.S. Military bases in those countries. And that to some degree or other, the USA has been using the civilians of those countries as human shields. And that the USA doesn't seem concerned about the fact that they attacked Iran. And now people in these countries that host US bases are getting killed. And let's, I mean, I've shown this map before, I believe, right? Let me see where I've got it, of the map of all the U.S. bases surrounding Iran. This map becomes more and more important, right? Let me put it on the screen here. Let me just find it. The U.S. bases. Yeah, right? These are all the U.S. military bases surrounding Iran. Look at it, right? You've got bases in Saudi Arabia. You've got bases in Iraq. You've got bases in Afghanistan. You've got bases in Pakistan. You've got bases in Turkey. You've got bases all around, right? And Kuwait, everywhere. United Arab Emirates, Oman. You've got U.S. bases surrounding the Islamic Republic of Iran. So now Iran is shooting back at those bases. Iran has also blocked off the Strait of Hormuz, and that this is a pretty intense situation, and that Iran is not trying to target the people of these countries who have been killed. I mean, there have been a number of civilians who have been killed in the countries surrounding Iran. They're targeting the U.S. bases. And if these countries were not hosting U.S. military bases, their people would not be in harm's way. And that has to be pointed out. And it seems like the United States doesn't really care about those civilians that are in harm's way because they attacked Iran and they're hosting military bases, and Iran is now retaliating against those military bases. All right. Now, in recent attacks, certain military bases were used against us. As we had explicitly warned, we targeted only those same bases without aggressing the hosting nation. So they're trying their hardest to not attack people in the region. They're trying to just attack the U.S. infrastructure in the region. That's important. Now, in addition to that, he urged neighboring countries hosting foreign forces to reconsider their position. Basically, he said that these countries that are hosting all these U.S. military bases, they shouldn't be doing it, because the United States is an ally of Israel. The United States is an aggressor. The United States is creating instability. And so if you're hosting U.S. military bases, you're really not benefiting the Muslim world. You're not being helpful. So he urged them to reconsider their position. We remain committed to maintaining friendly relations with our neighbor countries, right? Iran is fighting the United States and Israel that murdered their supreme leader, that have bombed them, blew up a girls' school. That's who they're fighting against. They're not fighting against these countries. I urge our neighbors to close these bases as soon as possible. By now, it should be clear that the United States' claim of bringing security and peace to the region has proven to be nothing more than a lie. Pretty bold words. He went on to talk about the Strait of Hormuz, right? I think we'll pull up an image. The Strait of Hormuz, which is a very, very important ocean trade route, right? This is a maritime route where a lot of the world's oil goes through. I'll pull up the map of it here, right? This is the Strait of Hormuz, right? Just south of Iran. It's where Iran meets the Arabian Peninsula with the United Arab Emirates and the Oman. And it's this very, very narrow space of ocean that leads over to the Red Sea. Iran has effectively closed it down. They've been trying to put mines there. The United States has been attacking Iranian ships as they try to put mines in the Strait of Hormuz. And this is why the global oil prices are rising, is because the Strait of Hormuz is closed and a lot of the world's energy, oil, goes through here. And so the price of oil and the price of gasoline continues to rise. And he addressed the Strait of Hormuz, saying, certainly the lever of blocking the Strait of Hormuz must continue to be used, arguing that the measure remains a key instrument in Iran's confrontation with its adversaries. The strait is one of the world's most critical maritime checkpoints for global energy shipments, and prolonged closure could have major implications for the international oil markets. He went on, urged the Iranian public to maintain a visible presence in the streets, particularly during the upcoming Quds Day. So tomorrow is the last Friday of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. And after the Islamic Revolution of 1979, Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution, the first supreme leader, called for that to be a day where Muslims all over the world go into the streets to oppose Israel and call for retaking Jerusalem, right? The Islamic name for Jerusalem is Al-Quds. And so the day of Al-Quds is the last Friday of Ramadan, and it's a day that Muslims go out into the streets, called by Khomeini, to call for Jerusalem to be retaken for Muslims from the Zionists. And tomorrow is the day of Al-Quds. There are going to be big demonstrations all over the world, including in the United States. And he said it's very, very important that Muslims in Iran be in the streets, especially on the day of Al-Quds, but elsewhere. It's very important that they be in the streets. And that this is a game. I've seen a lot of propaganda. I don't know if you saw, but Glenn Greenwald has highlighted how they're trying to obscure and make it look like the people that went out into the streets to celebrate, to celebrate the new supreme leader, like it wasn't real. And they tried to put community notes on it and say that it wasn't an actual photo, and that the Iranian people in big numbers have been out in the streets supporting their government amid this crisis. And U.S. media is trying to cover it up and has tried to make it look like all the Iranians are just happy that their country is being bombed, happy that an all-girls school was blown up, happy that their supreme leader was murdered, right? This is the lie that U.S. media has. So the Iranian people being out in the streets in big numbers supporting the Islamic Revolution is very, very important amid this confusion and amid this distortion by the United States. And tomorrow is the day of Al-Quds, which is an important moment. So there we go. Now, a limited amount of revenge has already been carried out, but operations will continue until revenge is fully realized. Now, that's the language that he's using. Russia is trying to negotiate peace, and they are very much trying to negotiate peace. But you just murdered the religious and political leader, the leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the supreme leader. And Iran can't just stop. And that's what is so frightening about this. If Iran were to stop, Iran showed so much restraint in response to the attacks they've faced before. But at this point, Iran has to retaliate. And so how can we get a situation where we don't just have all-out World War III with Russia and China supporting Iran and the United States and Israel attacking, and this could be World War III. And so this is a really, really dangerous situation. Now they're calling it the Ramadan War. That's what they're calling it in Iran now, the Ramadan War. And it's breaking out, and it's quite, we don't know what's going to happen. That's a good way of putting it. The USA mistook restraint for weakness. And so now Iran has to just hit back with everything they've got. And we know that Western media is covering up the casualties in both Israel and among U.S. military personnel. A lot more U.S. soldiers have been killed than they're acknowledging. There's no question that when they hit these bases, that they hit a lot more soldiers than just like they're saying. They'll only admit like 4 or 6 U.S. military personnel have been killed. That's not the case. In addition to that, we've seen Israel being hit and these missiles hitting Israel. There's no way that, there hasn't been a lot more Israeli deaths than they are acknowledging. So that's the situation here. Now, Trump, I don't know if you all are aware, in 2 weeks, Trump is headed to China. All right. He's going to be in China March 31st through April 2nd, a 3-day trip to China. Now, how in the world can Trump go to China when the USA is at war with 2 of China's biggest allies, Iran and Venezuela? Right? The USA kidnapped the leader of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, and they're holding him in a federal facility, and they are then breathing down the neck of his vice president, Dulce Rodriguez, not allowing Venezuela to export oil as they would want, etc. Meanwhile, the USA is actively bombing Iran, which is another country that sells a lot of oil to China. So China, is a country that is an oil importing country. Russia is an oil exporting country. Iran, Venezuela, Nigeria, these are oil exporting countries. But China relies on oil imports, and Iran and Venezuela were 2 countries that supplied them with a lot of oil. Now those countries are under attack. So China now has to deal with the fact that Trump is coming for a visit. And usually when Trump goes to China for a visit, he brings representatives of the business community. This time there's no announcement of any business community representatives who will be joining Trump. in addition to that, we have a situation where, 5 months ago, Donald Trump met with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and they announced a 1-year truce in the trade war, and that was in South Korea. But now, who knows what's going to happen? But Trump is headed to China in 2 weeks, and this is absolutely wild. And there are many fronts in the global conflict. Obviously, the war in Ukraine is still raging. Obviously, the USA has continued to pile weapons onto Taiwan and continues to edge, and hint that they don't really recognize one China. So we have a really odd situation in the world right now, and this is a very dangerous situation. Now, you saw that there was a shooting at a synagogue today. There was an active shooter at a synagogue, and we're waiting for the details about that incident. That's certainly horrific. Obviously, an act of terrorism, an act of violence where people were being targeted on the basis of their religious belief is never acceptable. And it appears this gunman went to a synagogue and was targeting people simply for being Jewish. That's wrong. That's called a hate crime, and that's called terrorism, and it's completely unacceptable. My fear is that U.S. media will try to link this incident to Iran, which they've already tried to link the attempted bombing on Sunday, the nail bomb that was thrown at the anti-Islamic protesters in New York City outside the mayor's mansion. They tried to link that to Iran. Well, the people carrying out that attack were 2 teenagers from Pennsylvania who were ISIS inspired. Well, Iran and ISIS are not allies. Iran and ISIS hate each other. Iran is Shia. The ISIS folks consider Iranians to be Shia apostates. And they consider they've actually bombed Iran and attacked Iran, and ISIS generally is on Israel's side. They were key in overthrowing Syrian President Bashar Assad. ISIS was, in Iraq fighting against Shia Muslims and Iranian-aligned forces in Iraq. So, the idea that ISIS-inspired people are somehow linked to Iran, that just doesn't add up. Now, Islamophobic bigots don't get that, right? And there's a lot of dumb Zionists out there who think all Muslims are the same and all Muslims are working together, and they're wrong. We see a lot of that kind of stupidity on the right, but we don't know what's going on. So there was a shooting. There was a shooting at a synagogue today, absolutely horrendous. And the day of Al-Quds is tomorrow. There's going to be demonstrations all over the world against Israel and in support of Iran. We're looking at a situation in the world that is not good, and is quite intense and quite disturbing. We can only hope that there is some resolution, but Iran can't just back down. And that's the thing, asking Iran for a ceasefire and Trump continuing to make statements to the effect of, oh, it's almost over. We're ahead of schedule. What schedule, right? What schedule is there, right? There's no schedule in a war, and these kinds of statements are deeply problematic and deeply unacceptable. And this is very frightening. Yeah. And so, the situation in the world is not good, right? There's obviously, Iran has shut down the Strait of Hormuz. The oil markets are going through the roof. Look, this is not what the American people voted for when they voted for Trump. And Tulsi Gabbard has been silent, right? Tulsi Gabbard was a figure who was within Trump's coalition on the basis of wanting to stop World War III, and she's been silent. A lot of people are calling on Tulsi Gabbard to resign publicly. I don't know if that's what she should necessarily do. I think there's a strong case to be made for that, because at this point, if she wasn't able to stop this, what can she accomplish within the Trump administration? It's good that she revealed that Russiagate was a hoax, but if she's not able to stop this, what can she do? And having her resign, if Marco Rubio and the warmongers were able to get this, it's pretty clear that they've gotten, there's no restraining them. Now, it appears that the FBI was key in making this happen. And that's what Gray Zone has widely reported, that the FBI convinced Donald Trump that Iran was trying to kill him, and that this was personal, and that, that that this was foul play by the FBI enabled this to take place. And that seems to be something that is pretty well established, that the FBI convinced Trump that Iran was trying to kill him. And that is what pushed Trump to do this. And again, this is meddling in our politics. This is something the FBI should not be doing, just like they shouldn't have suppressed Hunter Biden's laptop, just like they shouldn't have gone after the Black Liberation Movement. But this is what the FBI notoriously does. And that the state, and this is kind of when you get back to Lenin and state and revolution, the state really is the bodies of armed men. The essence of the state is the military and the policing agencies and the intelligence apparatus. The state is not elected officials. Elected officials are the front men, the spokespersons for the state, but the essence of the state is bodies of armed men. And that's a point that Lenin makes in his book, The State and Revolution. And it's a really important point to understand. At the end of the day, it's the people with the guns, the people with the ability to kill. They're the ones that have the ability to enforce and make decisions. And the FBI and the Pentagon, they make decisions. And this is a question. I mean, this is a really, really old issue, right? Whenever we've tried to have democracy in any notion of democracy, there's been the question of, well, what's to stop the military from just taking over? You read about the March on Rome, right? That in the Roman Republic, they had a law that that the army had to disband outside of the city. The army could never march inside the city. And you have the history of posse comitatus and various legislation that existed. There was a feeling that the military and the policing agencies should not be able to overrule the elected government. That has long been a feeling, and that it's never really been the case. As much as they've tried to make that not the case, that's never actually been the case, and that's been one of the problems of maintaining any notion of democracy, is that the military has the ability to overrule democracy at any point. And you have military coups that happens in many countries around the world, but generally the feeling is the military is supposed to be subordinated to the elected government. The president is the commander in chief. He's elected by the people, or I guess by the electoral college. But there's just many examples in American history where it becomes clear the military does have the ability to just overrule the civilian government. There are examples. For example, during the Korean War, Douglas MacArthur, the general, threatened to drop atomic bombs on China without the permission of U.S. President Truman. And he was fired for doing so, right? You can't threaten to nuke a country if you're not the president. And you especially can't do it without the president's permission. And he was fired, and there was widespread sympathy for Truman. And after Truman was fired, he was brought back to Congress to give a speech to a joint session of Congress, and the Republicans rallied around MacArthur and denounced Harry Truman. And even though, yes, Truman was able to fire MacArthur for threatening to nuke China, there was still all kinds of people that rallied to his defense. And still, a lot of conservatives and Republicans maintain that Douglas MacArthur was right to do that, etc. And then you can fast forward up to the 1980 presidential election, where Jimmy Carter was fired by the military. The military didn't approve of the SALT Treaty. That was basically, it cut into the profits of the military industrial complex. And Jimmy Carter was very much with that Eastern establishment. And when he did the SALT Treaty, and then when he was not capable of rallying the U.S. public for a war with Iran after the 1979 revolution and the embassy was taken, when he was unable to rally the American people to go in and quote unquote retake Iran, when he quote unquote lost Iran, the military fired Jimmy Carter. And that was very much what Ronald Reagan was about. It was the military industrial complex and a lot of layers of U.S. degrowth policies, right? The Rockefellers were just making the U.S. economy scream with high oil prices, oil scarcity, and just ripping up. With deregulation, Paul Volcker running the Federal Reserve. And so you had the ouster of Jimmy Carter that was very much the military intervening. And a whole lot of the American economy is tied in with the military. I mean, you go to any store, especially like a hardware store, Home Depot, for example. Go to Home Depot. The owner of Home Depot is Bernie Marcus. Bernie Marcus is a Zionist. Bernie Marcus is also very much a Trump supporter and also very much tied in with the military. And try to find a product at Home Depot that's not made by a military contracted corporation. Almost everything in the store comes from a military contracted corporation. And Bernie Marcus, he's a Zionist, and he's pro-Israel, and he's also pro-U.S. military industrial complex and manufacturing. And you see that. So yeah, I am watching some interesting developments, I must say. Now, the interesting developments that we're seeing now that are worth pointing out. Number one is that it seems like Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are using the attack on the girls' school. They're making that a scandal, which is interesting. It's good that they're doing it because that attack on the girls' school, I believe, was intentional. I don't believe it was an accident. And I certainly don't believe Iran did it to themselves, that Iran had a Tomahawk missile and did it themselves. That's absurd. And the way Chuck Schumer is talking about it and the way Democrats are talking about it is interesting. And it's good. I mean, the Democrats are insincere, and Chuck Schumer voted against the Iran nuclear deal. Chuck Schumer is as Zionist as they come. Chuck Schumer is a complete Zionist, but the fact that he is grandstanding against the attack on the girls' school is a good thing. And it means that there's kind of a strange realignment going on because Trump is doing this, because Trump did this without the approval of NATO countries. He kind of did it kind of in the same way that Bush invaded Iraq, kind of a go it alone strategy. Yeah. The way they did it, it is kind of putting the Democrats in a position where they can oppose this in ways they didn't oppose this before. Yeah. So hold on. Hold on. But anyhow, the Democrats want to get anti-war support. They want to court Europe's opposition to this. They want to kind of be a vehicle through which the Muslim world can oppose all of this. The Democrats are positioning themselves to absorb anti-war sentiments for their own gain, which they haven't done. Right. Generally, the Democrats, let's just be honest here. Right. It's a tough situation. I'm watching this develop. Right. I'm watching it develop, and it's directly related to this channel and the Center for Political Innovation. Right. The Democratic Party in the last decade has done everything it can to purge any anti-war voices. That's not an exaggeration. The witch hunt against anti-war voices in Democrat circles has directly affected us, right? Our channel was targeted viciously. Russiagate, the Russiagate hysteria, that was very, very much sending a message that Democrats were not allowed to want peace with Russia. And that their argument against Trump was that allegedly he wanted peace with Russia. And the hysteria against anyone who advocated a better relationship with Iran, with China, with Russia, the way they've gone after Gray Zone, the way they've gone after just everybody. If you had anything anti-imperialist to say, you were a white supremacist, you were a Nazi pretending to be a leftist, you were, it was vicious. It was very, very vicious, the campaign that was waged. Meanwhile, on the right, they did open and allow anti-war sentiments to be heard. And they were just using them. They didn't mean it, right? I mean, and it's not the first time that's happened. Woodrow Wilson, Barack Obama. I mean, presidents promising peace and giving us war is nothing new. Nothing new. What's new is that it flipped. It's generally Democrats who promise peace and give us war. And now we have Republicans promising peace and giving war. But what's new about the situation is it used to be acceptable in the Democratic camp. There were always peace Democrats, people like Jesse Jackson, like Dennis Kucinich, like Jerry Brown of California, like Bella Abzug, right? You always had Democrats who were part of the Democratic Party that were more pro-peace and more anti-imperialist than others. That was always the case. And they weren't always perfect. Bella Abzug was a Zionist, a huge defender of Israel, but she was also wanted peace with the Soviet Union. And was against the nuclear weapons and was sympathetic to a lot of communist governments. Dennis Kucinich is very anti-imperialist. I mean, I've met Dennis a few times. It's an honor. I mean, he's just a great man in so many ways, Dennis Kucinich. And he was for Trump in the last election because Trump seemed to be the peace candidate. You had Jesse Jackson, who in his 1984 presidential campaign was running a campaign kind of almost aimed at communists. And I've talked about that on this channel. You always had anti-war Democrats that were part of the Democrats, and Republicans generally didn't. You had some vague isolationist sentiments on like the far right, but it was usually not within the Republican Party. It was in the Libertarian Party or the Constitution Party, and Republicans were the war party. And what we saw starting from the time Trump was first elected up until today is that the Democrats, there was a vicious character assassination, personal hate campaign against anyone on the so-called left who wanted peace and anyone on the so-called left who didn't agree that all Trump supporters were evil people and were Nazis, or didn't agree with anything about the trans thing, or didn't agree with, if you just questioned anything, right? Or if you talked about economics, you were a class reductionist. We saw it. When I started doing streams regularly, we were still very much considering ourselves to be kind of in the Bernie Sanders camp. And we found out over the course of year after year, we weren't welcome. Right. And the amount of character assassination and vicious attacks and everyone's secretly a Nazi. It was vicious. Whereas among Trumpers, it was allowed. They didn't always agree with you, but it was allowed. And even now, right, in Trump circles, you still have that dissident MAGA, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace Owens. However, Trump got elected kind of pandering to Tulsi Gabbard, pandering to RFK and what he said about Russia, pandering to Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was on the stage, campaigning for Trump at Madison Square Garden. But now Trump has betrayed all of that. But you have a layer of Republicans that are against what Trump is doing. Marjorie Taylor Greene is making amazing statements right now. Meanwhile, the Democratic camp has said you're not welcome if you want peace with Russia, especially, but if you want peace with Iran, if you want peace with Venezuela, right, you're not welcome. But now the Democrats are starting to open up their camp a little bit. Now, because Trump is doing these wars, because it's a Muslim country that's a target, because most Muslims tend to vote Democrat, because anti-Islamic bigotry is a big thing among the nationalist, populist current, even among some of the anti-war people, they still have this kind of hostility to Muslims on kind of a xenophobic basis. Because of that, we're now seeing the Democratic circles suddenly act like people like us, CPI, might be welcome in the Democratic Party spaces. And my orientation is, look, we're not loyal to the Democrats or the Republicans, right? We're loyal to anti-imperialism and we're loyal to building a people's movement, and that we're proceeding with caution. But we're not loyal to the Republicans. We're not loyal to the Republicans in the sense that, oh, we won't go and join those circles. No, Trump is doing awful things. And if leftists are willing to work with us, right? That would be great. One thing that we've seen a big pattern of in the last few years is that I was right. But it wasn't just me. It was Jimmy Dore who was right. It was, we've been right. We've been right, but the very people who've canceled us for being right somehow adopt our message, but never apologize to us. And that's just a recurring pattern. The young turds, I call them, the young Turks, right? Anna Kasparian viciously went after Jimmy Dore, viciously went after Aaron Mate, viciously went after Gray Zone, and they just viciously went after them for being populists. for being anti-war. And now Anna Kasparian is out there talking about the Israel lobby and grandstanding like she's been anti-war all along. And that, you have Cenk Uygur saying he's a populist and denounce, and it's just, it's like, if you're doing that, why did you viciously attack people for doing it before? And why haven't you apologized to them? It's because they're not sincere, right? And it's just, there are people that are plants that are there to dominate the discourse, and that's the game that is played, unfortunately. And we, at the end of the day, I mean, what we have learned, it just keeps coming back to this, is that we just have to build our own movement, right? And our own movement may work at sometimes with Democrats, may work at sometimes with Republicans, may work at sometimes with religious communities, may work, but at the end of the day, we just have to build our own movement. And that we can't be loyal to any of these outside forces, because these outside forces all have different agendas and different forces they're loyal to. We have to be loyal to ourselves. We have to be loyal to our own principles. And the way the left went after us tells me that we shouldn't put all, we can't make ourselves vulnerable to that again, right? We can't. We have to assume that something like that could easily happen at any time. But at the same time, we have to understand the same thing could happen with the right, right? We can't make ourselves vulnerable. We just have to rely on our own strength. That's all we can do. We have to just build our own organization. And if we don't build our own organization, a real organization that has roots in the community, there's nothing else we can do. Look, and part of it is that we have to stop chasing views, right? And that's one big thing about this channel. I used to start every stream by saying, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I don't say that anymore, because I'm not chasing likes and subscribes. I'm building an organization. I would rather have one organizer join than 100,000 views, 100,000 likes. And I'm serious at this point. I mean, I would rather have, if we can recruit one or two people that really want to build the Center for Political Innovation, build our anti-imperialist community, that's far more valuable than a bunch of views. And that so much of what I'm seeing is that people who know better, are so consumed with chasing social media likes and views and shares, and that doesn't get you anything in the real world. That doesn't change anything. You can have a great video that gets all these views and nothing changes. But if you can build a real organization, you can get real stuff done. We have to build a real organization. And that, these likes and views, they don't really mean anything. We've had videos on this channel that have gotten 100,000 views, right? And and I've noticed the views go up and down, especially on big videos. It's like they can't decide whether or not the views are are what they are. I mean, we did our video about Ibrahim Traore, the great African leader. It had over 100,000 views. Now it's down to 93, and they can't decide, and it's not real. None of it's real. We have to just build our own organization. There is no alternative. We have to just build our own organization. So that's all we can do. And there's really no alternative. We've got to build a real anti-imperialist movement, and that's what we've been doing. And we've got some great activities coming up at the end of this month to be in the streets to oppose this war. We were out in the streets on the day that the supreme leader of Iran was killed. And we're going to continue being out in the streets. And we've got a new outreach campaign, which is in the works, and that we're getting together for the end of the month to just, hit the campuses. And a lot is happening. And, this weekend, there's going to be some house parties, at least in 2 cities, in LA and in Minneapolis. There's going to be some house parties, where our organization is going to solidify. And then I'm hitting the road, right? I'm going to be going around the country to workshops in different parts of the country. And then we're having our national convention August 15th. Will be our national convention. It's going to be very, very exciting. I think I've got the poster for it on here, right? Right? Is this the poster, right? Right. Let me pull up the poster for our national convention. We're going to have our national convention in Chicago. I mean, we just have to build our own organization, and there's really no other way to do it. And you have to just bite the bullet and do the hard work of building your own organization. And there's a number of people, people wonder why is it that we criticize other groups on this channel, right? Why do we do that? Well, we have to do that because people constantly come at us with, why don't you join this other group that has more members? And we have to show them why. And it's not pleasant. It's not a fun conversation, right? No one wants to hear mudslinging. But if you look at our end of the year video from 2025, we could not have done any of that if we had to get permission from, some bureau. If we were in one of these alphabet soup parties, or if we were in, we had to ask permission from some central committee made up of old boomers or competitive social media assholes, we wouldn't have been able to do this. I am going to put on our end of the year video from last year because I want to show you all what we have accomplished. I guess I'll just put on our end of the year video. Then we'll do the roll call, and then I'll answer people's questions. Ask yourself as you watch this, would we have been able to do any of this if we had to ask permission from a group of boomers? No, right? We've only been able to do what we have done because of the fact that we have a real organization. That's the only way we've been able to do everything we've done in the year of 2025. Maybe I won't put it on actually, but you can go and look at our website. We wouldn't have been able to do anything if we had been in one of these groups. And so we have to explain that to people. People frequently come on here, why don't you join the Communist Party? Well, there's a reason. If we were in the Communist Party, we wouldn't have been allowed to do any of this, right? Why don't you join this group or that group? Because if we were in this group, we wouldn't have been able to do it. You look at what these groups are doing, they're doing bad stuff. And part of what comes with joining those groups is that you're only allowed to do the bad stuff. And you look at all the tens of thousands of Houthi books that we distributed, or not tens of thousands, but thousands of Houthi books we distributed. You look at all the rallies we've done to support peace with Russia, to support Ibrahim Traore. You look at what we've done, we wouldn't have been able to do any of that, right? If you're in one of these groups, they don't let you, right? These groups are somebody else's ego trip, basically. And these groups are also ineffective. And we have to build our own organization because it's the only way that we can actually get done what needs to be done. So yeah, maybe I won't show the end of the year video, or I don't know. Should I? I don't know. Should I show the end of the year video? I don't know if I should. It's a little outdated, honestly. I may not. But you just look at all that we've done. This would not have been possible. Maybe I'll put on like the timeline part of the video. I'll just skip. I'll just show you the timeline. I won't show you the whole video, but I'll just show you the timeline part of the video. That's a good idea. But we wouldn't have been able to do any of it if we had to be in one of these other groups. And that's the sad thing. I wish that wasn't the case. I really do. But it is. Right?
The Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political
We are the Center for Political
The Center for Political Innovation.
We are the Center for Political Innovation.
The Center for Political Innovation.
Center for Political Innovation.
We are the Center for Political Innovation. FBI of being in Washington, D.C. with our two big banners, Only Peace Can Make America Great Again, and Build the Peace Bridge, highlighting the Bering Sea Tunnel connecting Russia to the United States via Alaska. And we distributed thousands of pamphlets to those attending Trump's inauguration in Capital One Arena. And that night, we had an event that took place at a nearby hotel with speeches, music, and all kinds of different messages highlighting anti-imperialism. On January 30th, I attended Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearings on Capitol Hill and watched her take questions from the Congressional Committee about her record as an anti-war activist and her efforts to make peace. On February 22nd, we had a workshop in Minneapolis. Now, this workshop was a little different than others because there were 15 protesters outside accusing CPI of being a cult, screaming that we were too sympathetic to Russia, but that didn't stop us. And despite the fact that we faced some woke Antifa disruptions, we had a tremendous workshop and got to know and solidify our relationship with a lot of great people in the Minneapolis area. March 14th through 16th, John McCarthy represented us at the Uhuru Solidarity Movement National Convention. John McCarthy was presented with an award for all that he had done to stand with the Uhuru movement and to connect the Uhuru movement and the Center for Political Innovation with each other throughout the process. On April 7th, as we were gathering in Chicago to start the process of building for the convention, we held a demonstration in Millennium Park. And at the demonstration, we emphasized no war against Iran, and we unfurled our banner and did quite a bit of outreach. It was a great way to kick off activities leading up to the convention. In the month of May, our member Jeff Young went and participated in the Great NATO Debate at Dayton Public Library, a debate about the role of NATO as the NATO Summit and anniversary celebration was happening. It was really great that a member of the Center for Political Innovation could be chosen as the anti-war voice. May 24th, we had an all-day workshop in Los Angeles themed around our booklet, Do You Believe in Growth? We had a lively Q&A discussion and solidified more relationships in the Los Angeles area. June 5th and 6th, I represented the Center for Political Innovation at the Global Digital Forum held in Nizhny Novgorod in Russia. And at the gathering, I had the opportunity to make a presentation to hundreds of anti-imperialist voices, telecommunications experts, and others from the African continent, from Asia, from countries like Vietnam and countries like South Africa, countries like North and South Korea. And I emphasized in my remarks that Western media was on the defensive, but now was the time to not fall into the manipulations and efforts to divide anti-imperialists using social media schemes. June 13th through 24th, as Israel and Iran were exchanging missiles, I was featured every night as a guest on Press TV, giving lengthy interviews, presenting the anti-war perspective to Iranian audiences. It was really an honor to be trusted enough to give an anti-war perspective at a time that Israel and Iran were in an active war situation. And it was really important that I was able to speak and represent the anti-war perspective coming from an American voice to the Iranian viewers who were watching their country be bombed. June 24th, we hit the streets of Chicago to honor Ibrahim Traore and to do educational work promoting this new African leader who's leading the Union of Sahel States. Now, the rally went viral in African media and was seen all over the world. It was a really big deal that people in America on the streets of Chicago were honoring Ibrahim Traore, the great African anti-imperialist. And we also received a phenomenal response from hundreds of Chicago residents who were walking by and took our leaflets and learned about the great African leader. July 12th, we had our national convention in Chicago, themed around Working Families First, Defeat the Deep State for a New World of Peace and Innovation. And it was quite a gathering. It was attended by over 260 people, and we gave awards to prominent guests. It was a tremendous step forward for our organization. On July 13th, we held the Chicago Sessions, a gathering for a lengthy Q&A in Chicago to discuss the future of the Center for Political Innovation. It was a great day as well. On July 15th, we gathered to have yet another rally to support Ibrahim Traore, this time on the streets of Rockford, Illinois, where we raised awareness and again received a very positive response. It was great to get out in the streets and do anti-imperialist educational work. August 7th, we co-signed an official letter to the United Nations from the Islamic Human Rights Commission of Iran, condemning Israel's crimes against the Palestinians and calling for international action to stop Israeli atrocities. On August 15th, members of CPI in 8 different cities participated in a national day of action to support the peace talks taking place in Alaska between Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. We raised the slogan, "We support peace talks, end Ukraine war," and we also made a point of thanking Tulsi Gabbard for her revelations about the Russiagate hoax that made it possible for Donald Trump and Putin to meet and take steps toward ending the Ukraine conflict. On August 25th, we published the book Trotsky and the Neoconservatives, which became an immediate smash hit success. It was #1 on Amazon in the category of radical political thought. And I did interviews about the book with Kim Iverson, Do Dissidents, and a number of other hosts. The book has received quite a positive reception as explaining the continuity between Trotskyite, petty bourgeois revisionism and the neoconservative bloodlust and war drive that has been guiding U.S. foreign policy. On August 29th, Noah and myself drove out to Detroit for the People's Conference for Palestine, where we distributed over 1,000 copies of the book, Who Are the Houthis and What Are They Fighting For? We went into the conference knowing that the PSL organizers would be hostile, and they were. We were removed by PSL thugs because they don't really support the Houthis, and they don't really support anti-imperialism, and they really didn't want our message to be heard. But that didn't stop us from getting thousands of books into the hands of pro-Palestine activists and showing them what a real anti-imperialist organization that doesn't tail after wokeness is really like. On September 19th, I was able to speak with Roger Waters, the Pink Floyd rock star, about his support for the Palestinians, as well as his support for the Houthis of Yemen. It was a dynamic conversation that was seen all over the world. Say something about the Yemenis and how the Yemeni people have stood with Palestine.
The Yemenis are, the Houthis. Their response to this has been quite remarkable. And when the USA pulls the full power of its army at them, they go, we're doing the right thing, and they are. Standing with the people of Palestine is the right thing to do today. So we stand with the Houthis and with the people of Yemen, and we have done all the way through. So,
thank you.
All right. You're very...
On September 20th, Noah Shank represented the Center for Political Innovation at the World Youth Festival gathering in Russia, as well as at the Intervision International Songwriting Competition. Russia was banned from the Eurovision competition, so they launched their own, Intervision, and it was an amazing international event featuring artists from all across the world, and it was really great to have CPI represented there, with really the only American in attendance being Noah Shank of the Center for Political Innovation. On October 4th, we held yet another National Day of Action to support peace talks. This time, not only did we raise a call to negotiate with Russia and end the conflict in Ukraine, we also called for prosecuting John Bolton and the war makers who promoted the Russiagate hoax that marched us toward the war. On October 17th, I had the honor of attending a very important gala in Moscow to commemorate the founding of RT. It was held at the Bolshoi Ballet Theater in Moscow and was attended by George Galloway, former president of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, and other very important guests. It was really special that we, as an organization, could be represented at this very important international gathering to commemorate the rise of anti-imperialist media and alternative voices that challenge Western narratives. On October 18th, the Democratic Party called No Kings rallies around the country, and we decided to crash the show. We disrupted the No Kings rallies, saying hands off Venezuela. And in cities across the country, CPI was on the scene to bring an anti-war message to this Trump derangement syndrome foolishness that the Democratic Party had organized.
In America, solo el pueblo salva al pueblo. Only the people can save the people. We are the people that will repair, restore, and make this nation finally the place of belonging for all of us.
In Minneapolis, our members disrupted Keith Ellison as he spoke, as well as other Democratic Party officials. And in Los Angeles, our members were featured on the prominent No Jumper podcast, interviewed about why it's important to have solidarity with Venezuela. On October 24th, Kirill Dmitriev, the CEO of the Russia Foreign Direct Investment Fund, came to New York City to negotiate with the Trump administration. I was able to be there as one of those who greeted Dmitriev outside of his hotel. And that night, we organized a demonstration in Times Square to say Russia is not our enemy. We support peace talks. It was certainly exciting. On October 27th, we launched a national outreach campaign aimed at food banks across the country because, due to the government shutdown, at that point, 42 million Americans were poised to lose their food benefits. We went to food banks across the country, raising a message of anti-imperialism, explaining who our government really works for and what could be done if we had a government that actually worked in the interests of America's working families and not the Wall Street globalist imperialist system. On November 1st, the Center for Political Innovation was happy to join the Hands Off Uhuru annual Black is Back March. We were proud to join this rally that had been happening in Washington, D.C., outside the White House for the past 17 years as allies of the Uhuru movement. I was able to give a message at the press conference the day before and to speak at the actual rally outside the White House. It was very important to be there. On November 16th, the Center for Political Innovation was involved in organizing a rally in Times Square to support Dr. Hak Jahan, the mother of peace, a key figure in arranging for Donald Trump to visit North Korea in his first term, a key advocate of the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. Dr. Hak Jahan is currently being held in detention as her trial goes on in South Korea on trumped-up bribery charges that are politically motivated. We were very happy to be involved in organizing this important rally to support a friend of North Korea and call for the release of an 82-year-old woman who has dedicated her life to advocating peace. On November 27th, CPI members in Minneapolis decided to mark the holiday by doing banner drops over a major highway. The banners said, "Hands off Venezuela," and "Jobs, healthcare, schools for America, not weapons for Ukraine." They also got together and had a meal and made plans to expand our activities in the Minneapolis area. On December 6th, CPI members in Los Angeles attended a Hands Off Venezuela demonstration, and they were actually featured on local TV as advocates in opposition to attacks on Venezuela, supporting the Venezuelan people and exposing the false claims about drug trafficking being used to target Venezuelan fishermen. Our members in LA have been doing relentless outreach, hitting the streets of Venice Beach, going to farmers markets, everywhere they can to raise an anti-imperialist message saying hands off Venezuela and opposing imperialism. They've gotten involved with local bookstores and been doing a huge amount of outreach. The LA branch certainly deserves credit for their relentless efforts to spread the message, as do the folks in Minneapolis who are constantly doing outreach. Our members are go, go, go. On December 13th, we were part of an important webinar by the Uhuru movement to launch a coalition to overturn the Foreign Agents Registration Act. This was a very, very important webinar because this campaign could open the door to a lot more security and protection of civil liberties for those of us who oppose war and want peace with anti-imperialist countries. We are very excited about the campaign that has been launched to overturn the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Why is it that at the end...
Yeah. And, then as the new year began, we went to the jail where Maduro was being held. After they kidnapped Maduro, we went to the jail, and we protested at the jail. All right, guys, get out.
This will be our corner. The federal facility where Maduro is being held is right over there.
Free Maduro! Free Maduro! No more bombs! No more bombs! No more bombs!
Like Maduro, that'll stand up to the international bankers, stand up to Wall Street. That's what we need. Free Maduro and learn from Maduro as a great example of an anti-colonial fighter. That's what we need to do.
Nothing. You had to do America first. Trump is not doing America first. He promised that.
That's
Is
right.
he doing that?
No.
He's not doing that. He is doing America last.
That's right.
He is not doing America first. Like he promised, right?
Nicholas Maduro.
Free Maduro now! Free Maduro now!
We are here to stand with the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who was taken unlawfully from his home, from his country, from his people. How is this a thing? How are we now kidnapping leaders of countries? Is this something we want to be known for in America? No. He knows we're in Ukraine and we're genociding children and women and people in Palestine, and we're not doing anything to stop it. Well, if it just starts with a few of us, then it starts with a few of us. And Nicholas, if you and your wife can hear us, we love you, and we are here from all around the United States because we support you, brother. You need to be out here now. This is inexcusable for the United States government. I am not happy with my government. I love the American people. I love what this country is about. But our government is a huge, huge disappointment. To many of us that have had to live our entire lives, either poor or lower middle class, while a handful of people have everything they want every single second of every day. It's not necessary. There's abundance for everyone, but we have to let it happen. God bless you, Maduro. We love you. Free Maduro now! Free Maduro now! Free Maduro now!
Yeah, that was us. And then we had an event in New Jersey the following day.
The ground on which we stand. Why should we be beggars with our ballot in our hands? God gave the land to the people. First step, sound the blast for freedom, boys, and send it far and wide. March along to victory, for God is on our side. While the voice of nature thunders o'er the rising tide, God gave the land for the people. The land was God who made the land. The land, the ground on which we stand. Why should we be beggars with a ballot in our hand? God gave the land to the people. Hark, the shout is swelling from the east and from the west. Why should we beg work and let the landlords take the best? Make them pay their taxes or the land will get the rest. The land was meant for the people. The land was God who gave the land. The land, the ground on which we stand. Why should we be beggars with a ballot in our hand? God gave the land to the people. The banner has been raised on high to face the battle din. The army now is marching on the struggle to begin. We'll never cease our efforts till the victory we win. And the land is free for the people. The land was God who gave the land. The land, the ground on which we stand. Why should we be beggars with a ballot in our hand? God gave the land for the people. Clear the way to liberty, the land must all be free. Winds will not falter and the storm 21st speaks. Still the flag we love so well shall wave from sea to sea. For the land that is free for the people. The land was God who gave the land. The land, the ground on which we stand. Why should we be beggars with a ballot in our hand? God gave the land to the people.
Yeah, that's us. And then what happened on February 28th, we had a national day of action to oppose war against Iran. Yeah, that was certainly important. Let me pull up the video of that. Yeah, I mean, we are doing a lot. We are a real organization. And, I really wish that the people that understand how important anti-imperialism is would be more strategic and not invest in trying to get somebody a lot of likes and shares online, but instead put their energy and resources into supporting people like us that are doing the real work of building real anti-imperialist organizations, because that's what really makes a difference. If you don't have an organization, you have nothing, right? You have to build a real movement. Without a real movement, you have nothing. And that's just something that people, it's not obvious, right? But yeah, this was us on February 28th.
In the White House. I don't know if you guys saw, Trump gets on TV this morning. He goes, "Oh, American patriots are going to die. Oh, and that's okay. That's okay because the children of the Epstein class won't be the people going out to fight and die so that we can get regime change in Iran. It won't." Is when he said he was going to go to war in Iran. Then the Democrats applauded. They all agreed. They love it because the Democrats are owned by around the world. We have a government. Weapons. We shouldn't be supporting in exchange. He abandoned the JCPOA. The majority of Americans who voted for Trump because they felt that maybe he would be more anti-war. They thought that maybe he would put America first, and instead, he's cowered before the Israel lobby. Oh God, please don't impeach me. Oh please, I'll do whatever you want, Mr. Netanyahu. I'm not a sovereign country. I don't care about the American people. I'm just gonna go murder 100,000 children in the Middle East.
In 2007, you had General Wesley Clark come out and say that the U.S. was trying to overthrow 7 countries in 5 years, which included Iran. It also included Libya. It also included Syria. And we see what happened with those countries.
This is a desperate call to reject the war in Iran right now. And we're out here to demonstrate that we cannot afford a war. We should worry in our own infrastructure, in our own country, worry about our people, but Trump has not done that so far. So MAGA voters, you guys need to worry about what he's doing. He is not putting Americans first. He wants your kids to die. He wants to send your children in a war that's not ours. But yeah, we have a homeless crisis in America where we're not putting Americans first. America's last. So MAGA voters, you guys need to start waking up. You guys need to start putting your foot down. When is enough enough? Enough with the nonsense, Trump.
And Franklin Graham, I'm calling you out right now, Franklin Graham. You spend your days on Facebook giving Trump a blowjob for Epstein regime, saying, pray for Trump, pray for America, as we bomb kids in Iran to free them from the evil Islam. You're the evil one, Franklin Graham, bombing kids, giving Trump a blowjob for Epstein. You should be packing Christmas presents for those kids and sending humanitarian aid, not bombs. That's what Samaritan's Purse is.
You're not getting safe subways because we bombed Iran. The price of going to a Knicks game isn't going down because we bombed Iran. You're not going to Madison Square Garden for free because we bombed Iran. Enough! Enough wars! They lied about Iraq. They lied about Afghanistan. They're lying about this. We're done. No more.
Would you like to say no war with Iran? You can be in it.
Oh, yeah.
Here you go.
Iran people of Iran are not our enemies.
Yeah.
And we had no reason to bomb them.
But there's no way this economy can continue the way it is. It can't continue by going to war with Iran or any nation, including Venezuela. Because every dollar that we spend in war means one less dollar that can be spent here. It's one less dollar to feed a hungry child. One less dollar to make sure someone has a roof over their head.
Iran is not a threat to us. Iran is not a threat to America. Iran has a long record of standing not just with the Palestinians, but with the people on the African continent, with the people in Ireland fighting against the British Empire. Iran has a long record of standing with oppressed people. Yeah, right. That's absolutely. There's a street in Iran named for Bobby Sands, the Irish freedom fighter. Yeah, fuck the British Empire. Fuck the British Empire and what they did. Fuck Wall Street imperialism. Fuck imperialism. I've been to Iran and I've seen with my own eyes how they have pictures of Malcolm X. America first, not Israel first. America first, not Wall Street first. America first, not the role of international bankers and corporations. Iran is a country that has stood with oppressed people around the world. They stood with the Black Freedom Movement. There are pictures in Iran of Malcolm X, big murals. I've been there. To move away from.
You think that?
Yeah. We are out there and we're doing it. And we're about to launch a big outreach campaign, which needs to be done. And we are the real deal. There are other forces that maybe have a similar message, but they won't do what we will do. And they won't. And they're not capable of doing it. And if you join those groups, they're going to hold you back and prevent you from doing the work that needs to be done. The only way we're able to do what we do is by having our organization. And that's what people need to understand. Exactly. Thank you. Become a member, get involved, support our work, and let's do the roll call, and then I'll start answering people's questions. If you got a question for the second half of the show, you can send it via Buy Me a Coffee. You can send it via Cash App, Caleb Maupin 22, or you can send me a Rumble rant if you're on the Rumble. But yeah, that's how it works. So names and locations, folks, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us? Who is with us? We got John McCarthy in Chicago. Good to see you, John. We got St. David in Bermuda. Good to see you. Good to see you. We got Jenny in Cincinnati. Good to see you. Good to see you. We got Rice from Adelaide, Australia. Good to see you. We got Ryan in Kansas City. Good to see you. Who else we got here tonight with us? Who else we got? John in Florida. As always, good to see you. Anybody else? Names and locations. Rose in heart and in mind and spirit. Very good. Very, very good. Samuel from the Far East. God bless. Thank you, Samuel. We're always out here doing the good work, right? We need an organization. Huey Long from the South. Kira from Georgia. Very, very good. Very, very good. Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. Names and locations. Anybody? Anybody? Names and locations. Names and locations. Anybody else? Anybody else? St. Tropez. Where is St. Tropez? Jody in Florida. Good to see you. Good to see you. Honolulu. Very good. Very good. We've got a few viewers out there in Hawaii. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to have you here with us tonight. All right. So if anyone has anything they would like to ask me about for the second half of the show, there's one Rumble rant that's left over, or there's one coffee that's left over from last night that I'm going to answer. And I think, are there any Rumble rants? There's like one Rumble rant that's come in tonight from Penny, right? Penny sent a China breakthrough on the China life expectancy, so we can watch that. But I'm going to put on some music, give people a chance to go to buymeacoffee.com and send a question. I'm going to put on some music, and after we listen to some music, I'll answer any questions, then we'll be done. Again, might not be a long show tonight. Might be long. I don't know. You know, I like sea shanties. So yeah, this is Old Maui.
Maui. It's a damn tough life full of toil and strife we wear and undergo, and we don't give a damn when the gale is done. sun, how hard the winds do blow. We're homeward bound, 'tis a mighty fine sound on a good ship, taut and free. And we don't give a damn when we drink our rum with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we sail with the northerly gale through the ice and wind and rain. Them coconut fronds, them tropical lands we soon shall see again. 6 hellish months have passed away on the cold Kamchatka Sea. But now we're bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Once more we sail with the favorable gale towards our island home. Our mainmast sprung, our whaling done, and we ain't got far to roam. Our stunsail bones got carried away, what care we for that sound? A living gale is after us, thank God we're homeward bound. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. How soft the breeze in them island trees, now the ice is far astern, and the native maids in them tropical glades are awaiting our return. Even now their big brown eyes look out, hoping some fine day to see our baggy sails running for the gale, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, rolling down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic around, rolling down to old Maui.
All right. Well, Penny sent in 2 China-related videos. So I guess we'll show, that was her Rumble rant that she sent in. So I guess we'll show those, right? Okay. Yeah, I don't know why it's not. Yeah, she sent in the two China-related videos. I thought they were here. That's okay. So yeah, we'll put those on. I guess we'll export. I don't know why it's not letting me move it. This is odd, but yeah, I'm trying to put Penny's videos on. Okay. Maybe I'll search them. It's annoying when you download a file and then it won't let you move it. But anyway, China makes, so we'll put it on the desktop. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can now find it on the desktop, right? All right. So now
Should be on the desktop. So we'll see if we can find it on the desktop. Gets tricky downloading videos to show on your streams, but that's how these things work. Okay, China makes breakthrough with unveiling of high ultra strength carbon fiber. Here we go. All right. Now, Gabby sent two questions. The first one she sent was, have you seen the Jimmy Dore and Alex Jones debate? It was a good, but a bunch of nothing. They knew what has to be done. A populist movement needs to happen here. I'm proud to know CPI is trying to build a mass movement, a government of action that fights for working families. Well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that they know what needs to be done. I appreciate the work of both Alex Jones and Jimmy Dore. I like Jimmy Dore, I would say, a bit more than I like Alex Jones. Jimmy Dore has more of an anti-imperialist and working class orientation. Alex Jones also gets a little bit pessimistic with his conspiratorial perspective. But I'm sure they did good work together. I think the best things that I've ever seen Alex Jones do is when he went to Libya, right before the bombing of Libya, when he was saying, I usually oppose socialism, but this is an example of it working. Gaddafi's a great African leader. He wants to build. I mean, that was great. Every so often, Alex Jones will just do some really, really good work. I just don't like his overall perspective. And when I saw him on Jimmy Dore's show during his kind of comeback after he got sued, when he was talking about, DMT and demons inventing AI and all this, he lost me there. Alex Jones was just not where it's at. But it sounds like I haven't seen this latest appearance where him and Dore sat down, and Jimmy Dore brings out the best in people. He has a good way of working with guests where he just brings out the best. And, it sounds like the conclusion was that we need a populist movement. So that's good. And now Gabby sent another question, which she's sending now. What are your thoughts on going no contact with family? Do you think sometimes it's necessary to protect your peace and your heart? Or do you believe family relationships should always be maintained no matter what? Well, Gabby, you know that I am an evil cult leader. And what I do is I separate people from their families so I can control them. That's what I do. I'm just being sarcastic there. And no, in all honesty, right? That's a complex question, and it's really something that you have to figure out yourself. I will say that no medical professional, no mental health professional should be urging you to cut ties with their family. That's a really unprofessional thing for them to do. And it's complicated. I will say that in my own experience, I needed distance from my family when I was in my early 20s. And I was pushed to do that by somebody in an unethical way, but it actually benefited me. But that's a journey everyone has to go on their own. And the main thing is that the way you see yourself is really, really important in being successful, in having confidence in life. And that if you learned to see yourself in a certain way with your family, and that way of seeing yourself is detrimental to your success, it can be important to have some distance. But I'm not saying that's your situation, right? There's probably plenty of people watching here who that's not their situation. And the way that their family sees them is a healthy, positive way. So that's just a journey you have to go on your own. I will say that one of the biggest downsides of this generation that I've seen is that it's much harder for young people to get
economic independence, right? That being able to pay your own bills and live on your own is a very difficult thing to do nowadays, and that takes away the dignity of a lot of young people. They feel degraded, they feel humiliated, and it takes away that. Another thing that I've seen, and this is another side to that, is that there is a certain type of toxic parent who doesn't really want their kid to go out on their own. And this parent, they enjoy having their adult child live at home. They tend to always constantly run their adult child down for, oh, you're not on your own, you're not living on your own, you're a loser, you're a screw up. But then whenever it looks like the young person is about to get on their own, they panic because they don't have any friends, and their child is their only companion, and it's a companion that works because they have the upper hand. And I have seen this over and over and over again. So many of the people in our circles, especially people who become wreckers in our circles, right? What they are is they're adults, they're living at home, and they have a parent who's really, really afraid that them getting involved in CPI will lead to them having friends and a life outside of the home, and that they'll move out. And that I have seen that many times as a young person joins CPI and their toxic parent flips out, because they want the child at home as their kind of captive audience. Because it's not, if you are the child of your parent, it's never an equal relationship. They're your parent, and it shouldn't be an equal relationship. You should hold your parent in reverence. The parent-child relationship is not an equal relationship. They are very much, they were in charge of you when you're a child. And even when you still live with them, you still hold them in reverence. And if they're financially supporting you, they have leverage over you. And that basically the reason you should go out on your own is so that you're your own boss, right? And that when you live in your parents' house, you're always going to be kind of under their dominion. And I've seen a lot of toxic parents who really don't want their adult child to go out on their own because they want somebody that's under their thumb. They don't want the hard work of actually going out and making real friends in life. They want to have their adult child living at home under their thumb. And that is very, very toxic. And that's a trap that a lot of young people fall into. And the economy makes it a lot easier to fall into that trap. I'm lucky in a way that me and my dad we just didn't get along so badly that I was never going to fall into that trap. I was getting out of there. I was out of there as soon as I was 18. I was out of there as soon as I graduated high school. I was out of there, because my dad and I, our relationship was just so negative. But there's a lot of people my age who that's not the case. And they just go out on their own. And that's actually one of the weird things, it's like, it's kind of like, in nature, right? If you remove a predator from an ecosystem, right? The species that they eat overpopulates, and it has an effect that you didn't predict, right? And then often, like for example, in the traditional Victorian family structure that Sigmund Freud wrote about, that is just kind of the way things are, is that basically, as the young man becomes, adolescent and pubescent, and the father is getting older, and so the father is threatened by the young man's masculinity. The young man, on the other hand, is desperate to prove his masculinity, and the two of them clash. And the father is desperate to castrate the young man, and the young man is desperate to not be castrated and prove his masculinity to his father. And they clash, and eventually the young man is supposed to be so determined to not be humiliated and degraded by his father that he goes out into the world and becomes a father himself, right? And that's kind of the traditional Victorian family, right? Is that, the father is constantly castrating the young man. The young man is constantly trying to prove his masculinity and prove something to his father and push back against his father's authority. And that leads to the young man being motivated to go out into the world and prove things. And now we live in an age where economically, the young man isn't as motivated to do that. And also we've gotten away from the kind of traditional parenting style that fills the young man with that edible rage, and desperation to prove his masculinity, right? And I think that's good. Generally, that means young men are not being as badly abused. That means that young men probably have more self-esteem and don't go into the world with as much rage, which is a good thing. But then again, it also leads to young men not being as desperate to go out on their own. And then if you add the fact that it's economically much harder to go out on their own, I mean, it's creating a hard situation. And, I know, Gabby, you're not a man, so you're a female. So this is a very different kind of thing for me to talk about with you. But like, I don't know. I'm not speaking to your case specifically. I mean, your life circumstances are unique, just like anybody else's. But we live in a very strange time. We really, really do. We live in a very, very strange time. And one thing that's been pointed out is that that while we're supposed to be equal in terms of genders now, the expectations are not equal. For example, if a woman is still living at home in her 20s, in her 30s, she's still living with her parents, people are like, okay, I hope she I hope she gets married, has a good husband, and she can move out on her own. People, maybe they think, oh, she should get her life together. She could do more than that, but not really. If a man is still living with his parents and he's in his 30s, if any woman starts to date him, the parents are going to say, leave that loser, right? That, that guy can't provide for you. And it's like, wait a second. I thought men and women are supposed to be equal. If men and women are equal, we should expect women to be out on their own just as much as we expect men to do that. But we still expect men to be breadwinners. We still expect men to be providers. But yet we're supposed to be equal, and that there's still a lot more expectations on men than on women, even though women are supposed to get the same as men. And the reason in the past that men were given more money than women was because they were expected to take care of people. They were expected to take care of their wife or their girlfriend. They were expected to take care of the kids. Well, now if you're saying that women and men should be equal, the expectation should be equal also. And it's not. And, and that's not good for women either, right? The idea that women aren't expected to have careers, women are thought of as being more like children than adults. And I mean, I'm not saying this means that men are oppressed. I'm just saying that things are pretty hard for young men right now. I mean, obviously they're not getting raped like women are getting raped. Obviously they're not facing domestic violence. And, I mean, it's complicated, right? All these things are complicated, but gender relations have been kind of shifted, but that's put young men in a position where a lot of young men are really on the defensive. And a lot of young men really feel castrated by the world. And a lot of young men, feel a lot of shame, and I think that's a lot of the manosphere. Noah's video was really great about the manosphere. A lot of young men feel like I'm not good enough. I'm on trial. I desperately need to prove myself. And a lot of that is the fact that they're still living at home and everyone expects them to do better. And circumstances don't allow for it. And yeah, our expectations in a lot of ways, we expect men to be what men were in the 60s or 70s. But the opportunity for men to be that is not there. And we're supposed to be equal. So it's complicated. It's complicated. And that's really all I can say. But yeah, I mean, as far as going no contact, I did that for a while. And in my case, it was necessary, but it may not be the right thing for you. And that's something everyone has to go through on their own. Okay. And, that allegation has been leveled against me and it's just bullshit, right? People said I'm constantly separating people from their families. I am not, right? And I pointed out, the very people making that allegation, there's one of our members who has brought his dad with him to CPI events multiple times. Gavin's dad comes along to CPI events all the time. And do we say, oh no, Gavin, leave your dad behind? No, his dad is there. We've had members bring their small children and their wives to events. We have had, we've had members who bring we're not trying to separate people from their families. We're not trying to do that. Right. But that's what's been put out there about us. And the reason that's been put out is because that comes from toxic parents, right? Who see CPI as the road to their child making friends outside of the home, getting a real job, getting their life together, and they're terrified of it. And that, I think about some of the people who've wrecked our organization, and I know their life circumstances and they have toxic parents, and they also don't have their shit together. It's really too bad. And that's the thing is I have learned, unfortunately, you can't save everybody. People have to want to save themselves. You can help people save themselves, but to some degree or other, people have to save themselves. people have to save themselves. You can't make people save themselves. And there are some people that are stuck in that permitine existence where they never really get to go out on their own. They never really get to support themselves, have the dignity of adulthood. And they're living under the thumb of a parent who likes to lord over them, that they're a dependent. But ultimately they have to get themselves out of that trap. I can't get them out of it myself. I wish I could, but it's not my job, right? It's really not my job. You can only make life decisions for yourself. And that's, look, it's the cost of housing right now is through the roof. The cost of everything is through the roof. I mean, we're being squeezed in every direction in America. The cost of living is insane and it's not good. So, I mean, I don't know what more to say about it, but yeah, I mean, at some point, it's important to sit down and examine how you see yourself and think about how much of how you see yourself is what you were told about yourself by your parents or a role that you learned to play in a family dynamic. And if the way you see yourself is very negative, and if your level of confidence, and if these things as a result of your dynamic, are unhealthy, it might be good to have some distance from your family so that you can learn to see yourself differently. But that's something you have to figure out on your own, maybe with the help of a mental health professional, but really no mental health professional should be pushing you to cut your family off. That's not healthy. And it's just something you have to do. You have to figure it out on your own. But, in terms of, really, look, folks, I am very, very much heavily influenced by psychoanalysis, Freudian psychoanalysis. Go read Freud and Marx, A Dialectical Study by Ruben Osborne. Go and read The Psychology of Reaction by Ruben Osborne. These are really, really important texts to read because Sigmund Freud really understood how the human mind works. And he had a lot of deep, deep insights into that. And yes, that is true. Jesus did say, I've come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and a father-in-law against her son-in-law, and that a man's enemies shall be those of his own household. That is absolutely, Jesus absolutely did say that. I'm not Jesus, but there you go. All right. Now, there was a question, a buy me a coffee that was sent last night. Someone said, so you've been to Nicaragua, Iran, and Russia, and Venezuela. What did you notice about the people in each country that was different from the people in the U.S.? Do they seem more empowered, optimistic, naive? I'd like to know the way that each of those countries saw them. Well, look, I mean, each of those countries is unique. And one thing people in those countries don't like, right, and is being compared to other countries. They don't like that, right? They're like, no, we're our own country. The Russians are the Russians, Venezuelans are the Venezuelans, Nicaraguans are the Nicaraguans, Iranians are the Iranians. All of those countries, I mean, Venezuela and Nicaragua have a similar ideology, but it's not the same, right? Nicaragua's socialism is a lot more religious than Venezuela's, right? Venezuela's Bolivarian socialism is somewhat Christian, but not as Christian. Nicaragua is really Christian. Nicaragua is also much more indigenous than Venezuela, right? There's a lot more native folks in Nicaragua. But Iran and Russia, completely different. Venezuela and Russia, Nicaragua and Russia, completely different. All those countries are completely different. Nicaragua and Venezuela are both Spanish-speaking, anti-imperialist countries, that are not led by Marxist-Leninist parties, but are led by, Bolivarians, but they're all different, and people don't like it when you draw parallels. It's almost kind of insulting, and you wouldn't think that. For us, we're just outside observers, but they don't like it when you draw parallels. The other thing, though, is that all of those countries have a heavily involved population. The population is very heavily involved in governing, and that if it wasn't for that, those revolutionary governments wouldn't be intact, not for a minute. Right? The population is heavily involved in governing, and that the people in all four of those countries are smarter. I mean, the average person you meet on the street is much smarter than average Americans are. There's just, people are encouraged to read books more. I mean, that's a reality. It's different, right? Iran is very, very Islamic and very, very religious. Nicaragua is religious. It's a secular government, but it's got Christianity in its constitution, and the socialism is very much Christian. And Venezuela it is too, but not as Christian. Russia is not the Soviet Union anymore, and it's changed a lot since the Soviet years, but there's still a Soviet influence on a lot of things. I mean, the buildings and just the way people relate to government and things. There's the Soviet Union has left its influence. There's a lot of pride in the Soviet Union's achievements also. So all four of those countries are different, and I don't really want to say too much about it because I do want to respect those countries, and I don't want to insult them by being, oh, you're just like this other place, because that's not, people don't like that. All right, well, listen, I'm going to give one last chance for people to send questions. All right, if you want to send another question, the way to do it would be to go to buymeacoffee.com/Caleb Maupin and send your question. You can also do a Rumble rant. You can also cash at me like Gabby did. So I'm going to put on another song while we wait for any more questions to come in. Go to buymeacoffee.com and send a question. If not, I'll be out of I'll be ending. Why don't we put on Shining Fatherland, a song about a hymn about the reunified Korea. This is a unificationist hymn about reunified Korea, Shining Fatherland. All righty. So yeah, I didn't see any more questions that have come in. What I did see, I did see Hempcar says, I tipped the Jimmy Dore show twice asking if J.D. Rogan, Alex Jones Tucker could get together and set a date to occupy D.C. That's why they killed MLK, because it was the only solution. Right. MLK was organizing Resurrection City, a poor people's campaign at the time of his death. That is absolutely true. And if anyone has any more questions, I did see that Iran organized a demonstration outside the UN office in Iran. They organized this demonstration in honor of the schoolgirls that were killed. Wow, that's heavy. And also Gabby then sent another question. So Gabby's going to send her other question. She cash apped me and she has another question. That's fine. I'm happy to keep answering Gabby's questions. So go ahead, Gabby, whenever you're ready with that other question. I will do my best to answer it. Good stuff. Good times. So yeah, glad I can be here for you all night after night. You know, it's been an interesting day. I guess I can show this. I wasn't planning to show it. You know, I don't like to do celebrity name dropping kind of stuff here. It is an annoying habit, you know, when you meet somebody and they're like, and then I met this famous person, and then I met this famous person. It's like, okay, we get it, right? You know, it is important to meet prominent people and stuff, but you know, we don't like name dropping. And also we want to build a real movement and recruit people. We're not just pandering to celebrities. But I did meet an important person today. So I guess I'll show you all the picture while I'm waiting for Gabby to get her question together. I met an important Pan-Africanist leader. She was at the United Nations today. Queen Mother Blakely, she was the successor. If anyone's ever heard, there was a very famous Pan-Africanist leader named Queen Mother Moore. She was considered like a successor to Marcus Garvey. She was a founder of the Republic of New Africa, right? And she was in Ghana. She was given the title of Queen Mother. And so her successor is Queen Mother Blakely, right? And she was she wrote a book that was very popular about being a nun in Harlem. She was a Catholic nun before she became a Black revolutionary activist. And she was at the UN today for an event on the Commission of the Status of Women. And I was at the UN, outside the UN, to plan something. We're going to be having an event near the UN towards the end of the month, it looks like. And so I actually got to meet her. And she was very friendly, you know. So that's me with Queen Mother Blakely. And yeah, we got to meet. So it was really an honor to meet her. She's an important Pan-Africanist leader from the tradition of Marcus Garvey, from the tradition of Malcolm X and other Black revolutionary leaders, involved with the Republic of New Africa, involved with many Black freedom movements. It was really, really an honor to meet her as an important leader of the global African liberation movement. She's spoken on the issue of reparations at the United Nations. And I'd actually be curious. I don't know what the Uhuru movement, if they have worked with her before, but I know they've both spoken about the issue of reparations. Her and Chairman Omali have both spoken about the issue of reparations for the Black community at the UN. And they're both advocates of Pan-Africanism. So I'd be curious if they can relate. I know, you know, Chairman Omali and the Uhuru movement, their approach is very secular, whereas her approach is clearly very religious. I mean, she was wearing a shawl there that said Jesus on it, and she was fasting for Ramadan. You know, she said she was fasting for Ramadan, which I thought was also kind of neat, right? So I guess I don't exactly, I know she was a Catholic nun at one point, and she is, you know, she's a Pan-Africanist, and I don't think she's a Muslim, but she was observing the Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan, as Muslims do, which I thought was very, very interesting. So Gabby said, I don't know if you'll be able to play this or not. He exposes protesters on the left, but he's pro-Zionist. Oh boy, I don't know if I should. Okay, all right. Protester video. I guess I can react to this. All right. You know, that's how we do things. All right. So this is Gabby wants me to react to a pro-Zionist exposing protesters on the left. What kind of protesters, I guess? You know, I don't know. Well, I'll put it on. Let's see. This is Nate Friedman exposing paid Iran protesters. Gabby, I really don't think I should put this on. I really don't think I should put this on. I mean, you know, people protesting against, paid Iran protesters. Gabby, I really don't think I should put this on. I mean, is this accusing the protesters, people protesting for Iran, of being paid agents of Iran or something? I mean, that doesn't sound like something we should put on here. Let me take a look at this. I don't know. This could be very insulting to, you know, people in our audience that might get the wrong idea, right? Yeah, Gabby, I really don't think I can put this on. I'm sorry. I'm not going to put on a video that accuses people that are supporting Iran right now of being paid agents, Gabby. I just don't think I can do that. I just don't feel like that would be appropriate at this time. I mean, it would just be insulting. I mean, with Iranians being killed right now, we need everyone out there in the streets. And, you know, Gabby, I just don't think it would be appropriate to play that video. I hope you understand. Yeah, I can't play this. I can't play this. You know, I'm sorry, but yeah, if it's, I'm looking through it now and I can't put something like that on here. I just, you know, I'm all for criticizing the left, but when Iran is being bombed and there's people protesting against it and we got a video claiming they're all just paid shills or something, I just can't. You know, I just, John agrees with me. I just, that would cross the line if I were to show that on here. You know, not that I can see that you and I both don't agree with certain people that are targeted in this video, but I just, this isn't the right way to go after them. You know, this isn't, you know, it's a real, look, Gabby, I understand. I don't hold this against you. It's a really careful line to walk, right? Because, you know, the left is run by not so good folks. You know, and I mean, trust me, it's been difficult lately because I've had to be around communists a lot lately because of these protests. They're not nice people and they hate me because I believe in what they're supposed to believe in more sincerely than they do. And I'm a real anti-imperialist and they're, I don't know, they're obnoxious and they all know who I am and don't like me. And it's been quite difficult to cover their rallies to the point that I fear for my safety. You know, these people, you know, they hate me more than they hate, you know, Israel. I mean, it's just, you know, and, you know, so I understand. And it's like, where do you draw the line? We have to criticize these people and we can't work with them. Right. And, you know, they all would love to work with us as long as we didn't get treated with respect, as long as we just stood in their audience and applauded for them and, you know, made them feel good about themselves and didn't question what they said and just went along with everything, you know, but we're not going to do that. Right. You know, we're going to, you know, be serious. And so it's quite frustrating to deal with these folks. It really is. But at the same time, I just can't, that line of attack that you sent me there, I can't play that on here. I can't, something that alleges that they're all being paid by Iran or being paid by Arabs or something. And that no, can't put that on here. Right. That's not the right line of attack. That's just, you know, it's not the right line of attack. And, you know, I mean, look, PSL is an awful organization, but to be fair, right? I know Marco Rubio tweeted about People's Forum calling them agents of China. Completely wrong, completely bullshit. And if they were to be prosecuted like the Uhuru movement is, we would defend them because we're better than them. Would they defend us? No. If the FBI arrested the Center for Political Innovation, arrested me, they'd probably have a party to celebrate it at the People's Forum. They'd probably like have a victory celebration. It'd be a great victory over fascism, you know, but we're better than them. We would oppose their prosecution because it would be wrong. We have principles, right? They threw the Uhuru movement under the bus. They couldn't exactly celebrate the Uhuru movement being prosecuted because they are a black revolutionary group. They didn't really do anything to support them. But with us, because I'm white and because, Russia bad, they would celebrate our prosecution. And they would do that. I go to their rallies and they practically threaten to kill me, out in Minneapolis and other places. We had our event in Minneapolis. There were 15 of these assholes outside. The communists in America are pretty awful. But that said, we can criticize them. We can write polemics against them. We can expose their activities. We can get under their skin. I wrote a piece about UNAC and their ties to Noam Chomsky that got under their skin. I'm really glad I wrote it because I can tell it got under their skin. It made them mad. It's okay to, it's okay to criticize these groups, but we have to do it in a way where we're not on the side of the imperialists, right? We're criticizing them for not being sincere in their anti-imperialism, not being consistent. If we criticize them, it needs to come from a good place, and it can't be from people that would like to silence all of us that are criticizing their wars. So, it's nuanced. And I Gabby, I don't hold it against you that you wanted me to play that video, but I'm just looking at what it is. I can't play that. And I think you understand, you get it. So I don't need to belabor the point, but we're living in very, very strange times, and the fact that, that DSA, the Really American Podcast YouTube channel featured CPI very prominently on Monday. That was a great breakthrough. And it shows that some of these forces are willing to work with CPI to some degree right now because it's Trump who's doing this war, etc. And look, things are really shifting, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene and Tucker Carlson are considered the enemy in the Trump camp. I saw Ted Cruz said that Tucker Carlson was the most dangerous anti-Semite in America. Thomas Massey is being targeted by Trump. And so it may be that there's kind of a weird realignment that takes place. I don't know how that's going to work exactly. It's not going to be with Bernie Sanders and AOC, right? Those forces that's not where it's going to be. But it could be that, I don't know what's going to happen, honestly. I have no idea what's going to happen. We're in very, very strange times. As I've said before, half of America has Trump derangement syndrome and is just hates Trump for whatever reason. Then there's about 25% of America that are blind supporters of Trump. And it's based on anger and hatred for the establishment, but it's not based on any thinking, any analysis. It's just they're mad at the establishment. They don't like being called racist. They don't like the way the country is going. They see Trump as fighting the establishment, fighting the mainstream media. So they like him. And based on that, they support his evil policies like ICE tearing apart families, like, raids, like bombing Iran, right? And then there's 25% of people that are what you can call the dissident MAGA. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Thomas Massey. And that 25% is the most important. It's 1 in 4 Americans that is dissident MAGA. That is MAGA, but anti-Israel. MAGA, but doesn't support Trump's wars. MAGA, but thinks Trump has sold out. That's who we need to be talking to, right? And, to a lot of people that are just regular leftists, that sounds absolutely crazy. Well, go and try to talk to regular leftists. You can't, right? Talk to them about COVID, about the vaccine mandates. You can't. Talk to them about Russia. You can't. Talk to them about anything. You can't. Like people that are in the left, they're just shills for the establishment at this point. And if Trump wasn't doing this bombing, they would support it, right? But it's being done by Trump. They hate Trump, and Trump is... It's all a big mess. But dissident MAGA is the target. That's who we need to be aiming for right now because they're the only ones that are really thinking, right? They're the only ones that are really thinking right now in American politics. But listen, it's been a good night, and we're just over 2 hours we've been going here. I should probably put on the closing music, so I'm gonna call it a night. We'll be back tomorrow night and the night after that and the night after that and the night after that. That's how we do things. So all right, folks, dare to struggle, dare to win. New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries
have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.